Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a question that feels like it's pulled straight out of science fiction, but it's becoming more real with every passing day. When an artificial intelligence makes a decision, who or what is actually responsible? We're going to break down the philosophy behind this, using a really fascinating critique by Justin Yanameka Onyo-Kaziri that forces us to look way deeper than just the code.
And look, this isn't just some sci-fi thought experiment anymore, right? A driverless car gets into an accident, a medical AI gives a flawed diagnosis, an automated trading algorithm triggers a market crash. These things are happening, and they force us to confront these incredibly tough questions about who's responsible. But here's the twist. The argument we're exploring today says that before we can even start pointing fingers, we have to stop and ask a much more fundamental question first.
And that right there, that's the heart of it. This whole massive, complicated debate around AI responsibility, it all hinges on this one, seemingly simple idea. Before we can decide if an AI is blameworthy or praiseworthy, we first have to figure out if what it's doing even qualifies as an action in the first place. And to do that, well, we need to take a quick but really crucial trip into the philosophy of action itself.
Okay, let's dive in. To really get a handle on AI agency, we've got to unpack this huge distinction that philosophers have been wrestling with for, well, centuries. It's the difference between something an agent does and something that merely happens to them. It might sound simple, but believe me, this distinction changes everything. So, on the one hand, you've got what some philosophers called actus hominis, an act of a human. These are all the things that are basically involuntary. Think about sneezing, or shivering when you're cold, or that reflexive kick when a doctor taps your knee. Yeah, your body is doing it, but did you really do it? Not really. These are things that happen to you. They're biological, they're physical events, but they aren't conscious choices.
Then, on the other hand, you have the actus humanus, or what we'd call a true human act. Now, this is what we're talking about when we say somebody did something. And it all comes down to one critical ingredient: intention. When you decide to raise your hand to ask a question, or you choose to walk to the store, you are the conscious cause. The action starts with your own deliberation, your own choice. The philosopher Karl Wojtyla, who you might know better as Pope John Paul II, he put it so powerfully. He basically says that intention is everything. It is the absolute defining feature. If you don't have that deliberate, conscious choice driving it, you're just talking about a biological event, not a truly human action. For Wojtyla, a real action is tied to that inner feeling we have, that feeling of being the author of our own story.
Okay, so here's the bottom line. A real action, an actus humanus, it needs two of our most fundamental powers working in concert. First, you need the intellect, the power to understand what you're trying to do. And second, you need the will, the power to freely choose to go after that goal. A happening, on the other hand, is just an event. It unfolds without that conscious, deliberate choice pushing it forward.
All right, so we've got this difference between an action and a happening pretty clear, right? Now let's apply that to the agent, the one who's supposedly doing the acting. What really makes up a human agent, and how on earth does that compare to how we define an AI?
So, in the philosophical tradition that our source is pulling from, a human agent is really defined by these two deeply connected powers. First, there's the intellect, our ability to understand things, to reason, to grasp meaning. And then there's the will, which is our power to desire something and freely choose to go for it. According to this way of thinking, you just can't pull them apart. They are the absolute core of what makes us agents.
Okay, now let's flip the coin and look at an AI agent. AI experts like Stuart Russell and Peter Norvig, they define an agent with this really simple formula. Agent equals architecture plus program. That's it, the physical hardware and the software running on it. The program is just a set of rules, no matter how complicated, that maps inputs to outputs. See what's not there? There's no talk of intellect or will, not in the rich, deep way we just talked about.
And that huge contrast brings us right to the absolute heart of the argument. It's the one ingredient that, according to this argument, is just completely missing from the AI equation. And that ingredient is free will, which is seen as the absolute bedrock of any kind of moral responsibility.
You know, this debate over free will has been raging for thousands of years. It's one of the biggest questions in philosophy.
The deterministic view says that every single thing that happens is just the result of a long chain of cause and effect, which would mean that free will is basically an illusion. But the source material here takes a very specific stance, what's called an incompatibilist view. Basically, it says that for you to be truly responsible for what you do, you have to have real free will. You have to be the ultimate source of your choices, not just another domino falling in line.
And the philosopher Peter von Inwagen just nails this idea. The whole concept of blame or praise, of moral responsibility itself, it all hinges on this belief. The belief that the agent could have done something else. Think about it. If they had no other choice, if they literally could not have stopped themselves, how can we possibly hold them responsible? It just falls apart. So, that leads us right back to our AI. I mean, really think about it. Can a machine, a system that is by its very nature just hardware running a program, can it ever truly choose to act otherwise? It follows its code. You give it the same inputs, the same programming, and it's going to spit out the same result every single time. Can it genuinely choose to not do what its code dictates? This argument says no, it can't.
And this gets to what the author thinks is a wall that just can't be climbed. The argument is that an AI simply can't grasp these deep metaphysical concepts like the good, the truth, or the just. You can't program justice into a machine the same way you can program a chess move because it's not a data point. According to this view, these concepts are the very foundation for moral thinking, not a result of it. An AI can process a million facts, but can it truly understand fairness?
So, okay, if we follow this line of thinking all the way to the end, that an AI doesn't have true action, real agency, or free will, we end up with a conclusion that's, well, it's pretty powerful and maybe even a little unsettling. It takes the whole problem out of the hands of computer scientists and drops it right in our laps.
The author really lays this out as a step-by-step logical argument. It goes like this. Step 1. Hey, we all know AIs can do some amazingly complex stuff. No question there. Step 2. But, as we've been talking about, real moral responsibility, that requires free will, the ability to have chosen differently. Step 3. An AI, being a system built on a program, is fundamentally deterministic. It doesn't have free will. Step 4. So it follows that an AI can't perform a truly free action, which means it can't be a free agent. And the final inescapable conclusion from all that? An AI cannot be held morally or ethically responsible for what it does.
So what this really means is that the problem of an AI messing up isn't a technical glitch we can just patch. We can't just write a better algorithm for responsibility or program an ethics subroutine and call it a day. According to this argument, the problem isn't technical at all. It's kind of like asking a brilliant engineer to solve a problem of artistic beauty. They're just using the wrong set of tools for the job.
And that's why the author's final conclusion is that the solution isn't in the tech at all. It's sociopolitical. Since the AI itself can't carry the blame, it's up to us, as a society, as a global community, to figure it out. It's on us to create the rules, the laws, the policies that decide who's on the hook when an AI's actions cause real harm in the world.
And that brings us full circle, right back to where we started. But now that question feels so much heavier, doesn't it? If the AI is, at the end of the day, just a very sophisticated tool, like this argument suggests, then who is responsible when that tool goes wrong? Is it the person who wrote the code, the company that deployed it, the person who was using it at the time? Or do we need to invent something totally new, some new kind of legal entity to handle this? And that is the massive question that we, all of us, need to start figuring out, and fast.